All right, good afternoon and welcome. You are the best of the best, right? This is our top 100, and we're super excited to have you guys on here to listen to our special guest today, but also just to kind of get some perspective on the marketplace. I think I've met most of you. It's great to see all your faces. If I haven't met you, hopefully I get to meet you at an event sometime soon. My name is Mark Olish. I'm the regional director in South Florida. We now have 7,400 agents. So if you're in the top 100, that's a pretty exclusive group. 7,400 agents and 34 market centers, which means there's a lot happening in South Florida, and there's a lot of business being done, and there are a lot of referral opportunities for our group. And in South Florida, we continue to crank. The whole market is doing well. It's interesting. I just took a vacation, longest vacation of my life. It was 2 weeks. So we got over to Europe, and then we got on a cruise ship for a week, and it was a lot of fun. And what I want to share with you is, during one of the tours, I said to the tour guide, how much are these homes in this area? And I said, is this a high-end area? Because it looked very nice. Look at a beautiful area. She said, well, no, this is actually kind of just middle income sort of area. She said, but the most interesting thing is our values have been soaring and there's no inventory. So I'm telling you, I was in Holyhead, Wales, and they're having the same kind of marketplace that we're having. And of course, it's a global economy now, right? So what happens here impacts the world. And we've got lots of things coming ahead here, including Gary Keller is reminding us, be aware of a shift. We are shifting. In fact, if you look at what's happening with interest rates, we already started shifting, right? It costs me probably $400 or $500 more a month in a payment to afford a house at $400,000 or $500,000. So the expenses increase, and it's certainly impacting us in many ways. So let's take a look at some numbers before we jump to our special guest, Sandra Raff, today, who's a $100 million agent in Miami and knocking it out of the park and excited to share with us. This is what our numbers look like in South Florida, January through April of this year. So we can make this a little bit interactive. If you want to raise your digital hand or just jump in and share, I want to ask you a question. Closed units, 11,923, closed volume, 5,520,454,507. We are down 11%, almost 12% in closed units, and up in closed volume. What does that mean? What does that mean? Anybody? Who wants to be brave and jump in and share what that means? This is a smart group of people. What does that tell us as students of the market? Jason?
Higher price point, Mark.
Higher price point, right? And so what's the danger if we get too caught up in volume and what we see in volume?
Less units.
Yeah, less units. And what we really want to be tracking is the units, right, Jason?
Yes, sir.
So it's a good reminder. This is a blanket statement about, the region, all of the region. Your numbers may look different, but you definitely want to look at them and say, how am I doing closed units versus closed volume? Are my units up or down compared to last year? And then look at the pattern. Listings taken, same thing, down about 5%. Listings taken volume, triple that. It's actually more than that. It's quadruple that, right? Because it's like almost a 20% swing there. It's up 14%. Listings sold down 12%. Listings sold volume up 8%. Contracts written down 12%. Contracts written volume up 6%. So clearly we're seeing the volume driving the marketplace. And then what happens, which is really good, is the closed GCI is up, which means agents are making more money than ever, which is awesome. And we love that. What we just want you to be aware of is keep your eye on the units. Particularly for your business, because regardless of what the marketplace is doing, as Gary teaches us, you can always get your unfair share and get more units. And that's why you have so many resources at KW, whether it's the classes we have here in the region or the Pivot Shift Ahead a call that we have every morning through James Shaw, all the pieces that we have here to help you continue to grow your business forward. So that's January through April. Then I thought you might find it interesting to take a look at what happened in April. Now, we just are transmitting for May. So your MCA and your market center is just submitting that to international. And we've had a really nice May as well, but we don't have final numbers. It's not because everybody hasn't transmitted at least until the third day. and we won't get numbers again probably till early next week. But for now, what we can do is look at April, and we can see that we have, again, some stellar numbers, but look at the ones that are record highs for April, the ones with asterisks. Closed volume, record high. Contracts written volume, record high. Closed GCI, record high. We love it. Just make sure you're keeping your eye on the units and the listings taken and the contracts written, and that you're getting your unfair share of units, and that'll keep driving your business forward. So, all right, so we wanted to share that with you so you have some global perspective, and then we want to zero in on our guest today, who's one of the top agents in the region and in the company. She did 92 million rather on 200 units last year, 92 million on 205 units last year. And this year she's going to break 100 million, and she knows she's going to have to do about 220 units to do that. So please join me in welcoming Sandra Rath. Sandra, thanks for spending some time with us today.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So first of all, congratulations on your success. We're going to talk about what makes this year really special for you, because you've made a transition in your business that we talk about in career visioning. We'll get to that in a minute. But the first thing I want to talk about is you're getting some publicity out of all this success you're having. And man, we saw this, I think a month or two ago when it came out. You got this big splash that came in, shout out Miami. What did you think of this when you saw this? This was pretty cool. How did this happen? And what did you think when you saw this?
Yeah, they just reached out to me, so it was kind of cool. You know, you spend so much of your career like chasing things, and then to get to a point where other people are kind of coming to me, it's very rewarding.
Yeah, it's really neat. They've got a picture of your team in here, which you've got a great group and a wonderful interview in here. And if people want a copy of this, we're glad to share that with them. So we're going to dive in though to some of what you shared in this article. And it looks like Ariel just put it in the chat, so you guys can grab it if you want to see it. But we're going to talk about some of this stuff today that you shared. Starting with, Sandra, take us back to before real estate. What were you doing before real estate?
Yeah, before real estate, I graduated with a degree in accounting as my undergrad, and then got an MBA. And I was a CPA working for Price Waterhouse. And you know, I did accounting for many years. And then when I had my kids, I decided I didn't want to do that full time. I went to part-time as a CPA. And but I always had a high level job as a controller, and it was just too much. Once I had my third child, I dropped that and really just focused on charity work and you know, things that I could do in the community. And I wasn't working for a while. And then when they all went to school, I said, well, what do I do now? And I thought, well, I could do some property management, you know, kind of a little hobby, get started, because I had a couple of condos at the time here in Florida. And so I got my real estate license thinking this would be a little hobby and just something to stay busy. And 13 years later, here I am.
Yeah, well, it's fabulous. So tell us, when you jumped in, you were a single agent, and what did that look like when you started? How did you do, and what did you do?
Yeah, as a single agent, I mean, I did anything and everything, whatever I could do to get something to stick, I did it. I would try something for 6 months, and if it didn't work, then try something else. And you know, just like everybody else, I started one foot at a time, and nothing stuck for the first couple of months. I mean, that first year, it wasn't phenomenal by any means. It was an okay year. I sold about 5 million my first calendar year. I got my license in September. So then the next calendar year, I closed about 5 million. And, you know, I thought that was pretty good.
Yeah, well, it is a good start, right? That's a great start. So then when did you add the first person to your team?
Actually, the very first year that I was in real estate, I went ahead and got an assistant that would help with the transactions. And, you know, just from the beginning, I always focused on the listing side and what I could leverage to somebody else. I think I started that very early compared to most people. And I think that really made a big difference for me, being able to have somebody who would help with the administrative stuff.
Yeah. So you do that, and then do you remember where your business went from 5 million to what after you added that first person, roughly?
I think it actually went to 18 million my second year.
Okay. And rough idea of units of where you were at that time?
I have no recollection of that. I'm sorry. But I mean, my average price point back then was probably 300,000.
Yeah, yeah. So, and the price points have grown, and so has your team. One of the cool things about Keller Williams is we have an org chart, right? And we have levels. So if you read the MREA book, then you know in the MREA book, we have 7 levels on page 273 of how to leverage yourself in the business. So what was interesting in our conversation, Sandra, is we kind of looked at your business and where you're at. And I want to have everyone take a peek at, we said you're essentially in sort of level 5, part 2, as close as we could tell. So I wanted to do something kind of fun here. So as one of the top 100 agents in the region, as you're watching this and you're looking at this, this is what the book says, you know, it should look like or could look like. Remember, this is just a template for us to follow. You don't have to do everything exactly right, but you want to have an idea of where you're going. So what they say is you should have to one side your agents, right? Buyer's agents, maybe showing assistants and a listing agent. And then directly underneath you, you have sort of your ops people, if you will. And then on the right, depending on how you handle lead management, you've got your lead manager part to that side. So think of it as sort of 3 columns, if you will. Now, what's kind of fun, Sandra, as we talked about this, you are really on this path. And we kind of fleshed this out. And then this is what we came up with as we looked at this for your business, right? So tell us what you've got here and sort of how you see this. You've actually got your director of ops acting as your transaction coordinator, acting as your director of ops right now, but you've also got 7 interns you use there. So share a little bit with us about how that part of your business works.
Sure. I would say the one interesting thing about us is we are a little light on staff and administrative people. I think to truly follow the MREA, we would have more, admin people. And I think from what I see of most other teams, they do have more admin. So, I'm with the CPA background, I'm always trying to cut costs and make sure that everybody's keeping more money in their pockets. And so that does translate into a little bit less of those repetitive costs. But that being said, I have a great listing manager. He's been with us for about 6 years, and he takes all the listings and puts them into the MLS. He does all the pictures, and anytime we have systems problems, he's our man. Then we have our transaction coordinator who also kind of acts as the director of operations. She's overseeing the interns. In the summer, we have more interns than we do during the school year. So we try to get some projects done in the summer that we just don't have time to do during the school year. So she's heading up that for the first time, which is awesome. So that kind of took that off my plate. And then we have the agents, and agents are allowed to do either listings or buyers on my team. I do have a couple that specialize just on the listing side, and they are really my top producers because they're focusing on the listing side. And then we don't really have a true director of sales at this point. That's probably the next spot that we need to fill. So right now, all the agents are really reporting directly to me.
Yeah. Do you think your director of sales will come out of that group of agents, or will you have to go outside that group? Or do you know?
I think there's a couple of people that could fill that role if they're interested in it. And I think that's the biggest challenge is, how do you compensate somebody for that type of role when they're, potentially making a lot of money on the sales side themselves. So I think there's potential there.
Yeah. Well, and it's funny you said I'm kind of light on staff compared to other people. What's interesting is, and we've seen this before when the market has shifted, if you've been with KW or been in real estate any semblance of time, certainly with Keller Williams, Gary has told us when the market shifts, you have to be able to manage expenses. And you're ahead of the game on that, Sandra, right? You've managed expenses really well here. So you're actually prepared for a shifted market, right?
I try.
That's good. It's part of the benefit of being a CPA. Tell us just a little bit about what you have the interns do. You said a myriad of things.
Sure. So the interns are doing anything that they're allowed to do without a license. It depends on what their background is and what they're interested in doing. So we have some that they just want to be in the office and do computer work, manage the database, maybe make social media pieces. And then we have other interns who join us because they want to get into real estate. And so if they want to do real estate, then we're trying to get them out into open houses, to inspections, maybe dropping off a lockbox here or there. Really the sky is the limit. These kids are bright, and you really can, have them get involved in a lot of what we're doing. And for me, they're very instrumental, I think, in open house situations, especially where the market's been so crazy.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we talked about that I loved is you are really on the hunt for talent all the time. I remember Gary and Nikki Ubaldini, who are our regional operating partners, who are top agents for RE/MAX, like top in the world for RE/MAX. When they were first meeting with Gary Keller, they would come back with more listings every time. And they were also with Linda and Jimmy McKissick, who were also number one profit share earners in the company. And they would always come back to Gary and say, man, every time we come back, we have big increases in our business. And you always seem like you're 4 or 5 more jumps in front of us. Why is that? And Gary would say, because while you guys are focused on finding more buyers and sellers, I'm focused on finding more great people. And the way you really grow is through great people. That's what you've done, Sandra. Starting with colleges, you've got a network of colleges that you tap into, right?
Mm-hmm. Sure do.
So can you share with us, if anyone wanted to kind of mimic that, how did you do that? How do you do that?
You just start off by reaching out to the colleges and see what their programs look like. Every college has a different requirements. Some of them will allow the interns to get paid, some won't. Some you have to submit forms and fill out all of the information and do reviews on the students. So you just have to find out what your schools or what their requirements are, and what you're allowed to do with the student. Some of them do have rules as well that you can't have them doing a lot of administrative stuff. Yeah.
So the big piece is you're always looking for talent, sometimes at the intern level, sometimes as an agent or people on your team. You're looking everywhere for these people all the time, right? You shared that piece, and you're putting them through career visioning, right?
I am. Yep. And I took the class with you, Mark.
Yeah, you sure did. Yeah. And so let's pop this up and show people, because this is one of the pieces that we teach in here about when you started out, and we talked about this in your journey. When you started out, it was just you as a single agent. That's an I do it. And sometimes we think that we own our own business, and we do, but we actually don't, right? It's a job. If we quit, we're stuck. There's nothing happening. There's no income. Then we start bringing people on like you did. You brought on your first assistant, and now it's a we do it together. What I love about our conversation is this is the first year you've gotten it to be they do it, where you truly have a business, because you've handed off the listing side of your business, haven't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So tell us about that. Did you have any reservation about that? Is that where you wanted to go all along? What sort of was your thought process on that?
Sure. So to kind of just back up a little bit, I joined KW about 5 or 6 years ago. I can't remember now. But we specifically came here because I wanted to grow a team. When I was at the previous company, I always had people working on my team, but the company wasn't focused on teams. So that was what drew me to Keller Williams, was to get the training and understanding of, like, how do I manage a team? How do I do that when people are calling wanting Sandra? How do I get them to have David come meet with them? So that was why we made the initial move here. And then a couple of years after that, I got into MAPS coaching because I wanted to get out of production. So about 3 years ago, my goal was to get out of production. It was to run the team and not be the person who had to be sitting at the table every single day, every single listing appointment. So we started that process for at least 2 years ago, we started the process. And it definitely took training of myself, training of the agents. How do we talk to our clients so that they understand that they're still getting Sandra, but David or Madeline or Dina are the ones sitting at the table with them, but they're still getting Sandra's processes, Sandra's procedures. And so it's a double win for them, because they're actually getting 2 people for the price of 1.
So it's about setting those expectations up front with your clients.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you have any consternation about handing these things off? Most people on this call, and probably myself included, can be control freaks, where we are afraid to hand some stuff off. Did you have any thoughts on that, or how did that work for you?
Absolutely. And I think that that fear comes from the unknown. So I think the more that you can train people and really see them in action, the more comfortable you can get with them. So the listing agents, they've definitely been handpicked. Nobody's joining my team in the first day going out and taking listings unless they have connections. But it's a lot of training. And even with the experienced agents, the top listing agents that we have, we're always training. We're always looking at, okay, how do we do this different? Like, what is your conversion rate? What is causing it to maybe dip down right now? What troubles are you running into? We actually will survey people when we didn't get the listing. We'll ask, okay, thanks for the opportunity, but what could I have done better for you so that you would have chosen me or Madeline or, whoever it is on our team. So yeah, it was definitely challenging at first, but I think once we got the training, we got the verbiage down. Now, I mean, it's not stressful at all.
You actually love mentoring.
I love it. I love it. I love when they call me and we work out problems and, they go away happy and, they've learned. It's really, it's very inspiring.
Yeah. So now you've got standards and focus for your team. Let's start by talking about the standards that you sort of have for your assistants and your agents. And what does that look like? How do you maintain a standard?
Sure. So we use a database that has very specific, I'll say standards within it. So it tells you who you're supposed to be calling every day. We as a team sat down and said, okay, if a buyer or seller is looking to move in the next month and they're this type of buyer and they should be called every so many days. So we did it as a team so that it was buy-in from everybody. It wasn't just me forcing it on them. And over time, we've changed it a little bit here and there. An agent may come and say, hey, this is just too often. We don't need to call this person this often. Or, hey, can we create a new stage so that we can have a different level of interaction with that person? And so we'll change. So I think that the systems and processes, they're constantly being reviewed and reevaluated and will change. And I love it when the agents come to me and say, hey, can we do something different? Can we change it this way? I'm like, yes, absolutely.
Well, it means your group is thinking, right? And thinking along with you.
Right. And I think that shows that it's more than a job for them. This is a career. They're looking at making it better, not just following the steps and blindly doing it. They're saying, hey, there's a better way to do this. Let's add something in. And I love that.
Yeah. Well, if you go, Ariel, go back to that owning a job versus owning a business slide. The piece you're talking about is your group being on their way to it being theirs. And them helping you build the empire. Does that make sense?
Absolutely.
Yeah, when you're getting that kind of input and feedback from your team and you've created that relationship, that's really where you're headed with that, which is really cool. And then you can go anywhere you want. You can build it as big as you want. And by the way, we have some great individual agents on here, right? Because it's the top 100. We're just sharing that you can be anywhere on this spectrum. But for you, Sandra, because you love to mentor and this was your goal, this has been a great model for you to follow all the way out to they do it and ultimately theirs, right? Well, they will take it over. So you talked about standards. One of the other things you mentioned was you mentor the agents. However, if there's a good PC program, if I'm an agent on this call and I've got a good PC program in my market center, there have been times, and it fluctuates, but there have been times where you've taken agents and plugged them into the PC program first. Tell me about that.
Yeah, in the very beginning, we had some agents that were doing the PC program at the same time that they were on the team. Our office has gone through a lot of changes with the PC program. So it's definitely something that we may go back to that, putting people back in there. I think it's a great resource if the coach, kind of mimics what you're looking to do. Obviously, there's different approaches. I'm all about being relational, not transactional. So as long as the coach is kind of on that same page with what I'm looking for in what I'm trying to teach the team, I would 100% use it. Yeah.
So just a great idea for people. That way someone could get 3 to 5 deals under their belt, have the same practices as you, if the program fits that for you. And that's another leverage piece for you, I guess what we're saying. For 3 things you said in the article, particularly, that were important to your group, and I want to go through them. Number one is customer focus. You teach your guys, and the mantra is to stay customer focused. What does that mean, and what does that look like?
To always keep the business focused on the people. So yes, it's a paycheck at the end of the day, but it's all about people. For me, it's not one transaction. It's not, okay, let's close 200 individual transactions. It's let's build a pipeline that lasts for the next 25 years. Staying in touch with people after we close. If the deal falls apart and they decide not to sell, we're still staying in touch with them. We're still giving them the gift that we would have given them if we had closed. Really putting the people first so that at the end of the day, they're going to come back to us, whether it's the same property, selling it again, or buying another property. We've had people that we've sold their home, they've moved to California, then something brought them back and they're calling us back 10 years later to buy something again. It's really just creating a relationship with people.
And whether I'm buying a $200,000 house or a $2 million house, your belief is I should have the same type of experience. So how do you do that? How do you make sure that happens?
Yeah, so we have a very detailed checklist that we go through for every transaction. Every listing has the same checklist. Like all new agents, they always say, oh, do I have to get professional pictures taken of this rental or of this, $50,000 condo? And the answer is always yes. Everybody gets the same treatment. You're still going to dress your best going on your $50,000 listing appointment versus $1 million. You're always going to just do the same thing regardless of what price point you're at.
Yeah. And you will even, did I hear you right when you were talking about photography? You will even sometimes send the list to the seller so the seller's prepared and knows what pictures are going to be taken?
Yep, we have a photography checklist so that they know ahead of time and we don't get there and they're shocked.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you're taking a picture of the backyard. I haven't cleaned it up. They know because you've made sure that list is in their hands.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Number two is you said consistency. So what did you mean by that? The consistency in your team is really important.
Yeah, I think that runs throughout everything, and it goes along with what we just talked about. There's always a checklist. So we're always doing the same checklist. We're not skipping steps. Even if it's a step that seems silly, we're always going to do the same thing. With marketing, it's always the same thing. We read the book, The One Thing, we figured out what is our one thing. We do that one thing every single month. Even if we have to stay up till midnight, the night before something's due, we're going to get it done. And I think that's one of the hardest things for agents is really being very consistent, like getting the marketing done on the same day every month. And I think it really just makes a big difference because the clients, they know what to expect.
Yeah. Another thing you said is never give up. So sometimes deals are more challenging than others. What does that look like?
Yeah, I love a challenge. And so I'm always challenging my agents too, to take on the challenge. If they come to me and they say, this is going to be really hard, they've got a foreclosure coming up, they've got this, they've got that. I'm like, okay, that's great. That just means we have to work fast. I absolutely love a challenge. And if things start to get difficult in the transaction, then we roll up our sleeves and we just work harder.
Well, and this is a great example of where that becomes important because as realtors, we're going to have to be thinking about how do we get creative with financing, maybe to put some of these deals together. You even have had situations where you've purchased properties, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, we've had a few situations recently where people, in order to buy a property, they had to sell a property. And it's hard in this market. It's just hard to do it. And we've had a couple of situations where the transaction should have gone through and at the last minute they got a loan denial and something happened. So in order for them to purchase the property that they were going to purchase, my family stepped in and purchased the property so that the client could continue moving forward with their life. It really feels good for us to do that, to be able to say, you know what, we made this happen for them in many levels, not just being as the agent, like we didn't make any money buying that property for them, but it's just nice to see that we're able to go to that higher level of really making things happen and kind of taking one for the team, if you will, because we buy those properties and we have a risk involved. Yes, we did make money off of them, but we might not have.
Yeah. Well, it shows your level of commitment to serving the client, which is what you said you're all about, right? Now, you told us about the P&L piece and that you look at that. I want you to zero in on return on investment, because it's easy, especially when the market has been this hot, for us to just start spending because everything we spend seems to work. There's business falling out of the sky, and yet we have to be careful. So how do you watch that? How do you watch your return on investment?
Yeah, I'm always looking, first off, I think most importantly is that we always have to run our P&Ls. And I know we all get lazy at times. I did during the pandemic. I'm going to admit it. I did. But we always have to be doing it and looking at it and seeing, what's working, what's not working. Always playing red light, green light, and getting rid of things that aren't bringing any money in. And it's interesting how quickly we forget about something we're paying for and we're not using it anymore. So when you're actually running your P&L and looking at the expenses, you realize, oh, wow, I'm paying for this, CRM that I stopped using 2 years ago. I'm sure everybody on here has had that experience where you're paying for something that you're not using. So run those P&Ls and dive in there each month.
Yeah, look at the apps on your phone, for crying out loud. I did that not too long ago and said, I'm not using that one or that one or that one. And you're getting charged for some of those things. So it's great advice just in terms of money management of your life. Now, you gave me some examples like return on investment. What might be an example of something where you green lighted and you said, let me put some money in that. And then you said, I don't think that's working. Do you have an example of that?
Sure. We do a lot of farming. And so we've done some neighborhoods where we start farming and, we commit to 6 months. If we're going to do anything we do for 6 months and see what the result is. As we know, the first time you send something out, usually you're not going to have any results. Second time, you still might not. So we commit to 6 months for anything that we do. And at the end of 6 months, if we've got nothing from it, it's time to, cut the cord. And we've done that in a couple different farming areas that just didn't, the same exact message in one neighborhood just didn't work. Like it was great in one neighborhood, but not another one. So it's, again, just constantly monitoring, is it working? Is it not working? And sometimes it's not even a direct result. Like it may be like an indirect result that keeps you doing it. But you have to make sure you have some result in order for it to make sense.
Yeah. Well, and it can also be sourcing leads, right? So if I know that I'm asking people how they contacted me or why they contacted me, and they're telling me it's from the bus bench, I'm going to keep doing the bus bench. But when they stop telling me that, I might try a billboard until they stop telling me it's the billboard. But you've got to be aware of that because those things change. I think I shared with you the story of one of our top teams here that went from bus benches to billboards and then stopped the billboards when I was team leader here. And I said, why you stop the billboards? Nobody calls us on the billboards anymore. So that's what you're talking about, is keeping a handle on what lines do I have out there? What am I reeling in? And I got a fish on there, and what do I have no fish on? Right. Mm-hmm. And when you did this, where did you decide to double down?
You mean during the pandemic? Where did I double down?
Yeah, your database became a big piece for you, didn't it?
It did. We also put some more money into marketing during the pandemic. There were a couple of things that actually became very inexpensive because nobody else wanted to do them. So I said, okay, well, I'll do it. I did a billboard for a little while, which I don't still have it, but it was really cool at the time. And I got a lot of feedback, a lot of people in my database reaching out to me, sending me pictures of myself on the billboard. So it was really great. I'm not doing it anymore. The prices have skyrocketed again. But I think we got a good amount of traction from it. And that definitely helped us go. I mean, we increased our business over 50% during the pandemic the first year. So that was, I do think that it did help. I don't know that it would have continued to help, but it gave us a nice increase.
Yeah. And you've diversified your business in that you have a percentage coming from farm, from referrals, like agent to agent referrals, and then database, right? Did I miss anything? Is there anywhere else where you've got pieces coming from?
I think the database being past clients, Sphere, getting referrals from friends and people that we know. I think we get a lot from word of mouth, just people knowing who we are and people we've done business with before. And I think that we enjoy that because it tells us what we're doing is working.
Yeah. And we've looked at your numbers. You're on track to get to 100 million or very close to that. And the nice thing for you is you've done that now with leverage, and you've actually, you're going to do more business, and you've moved yourself out of the business, which is really cool. I'm going to let people jump in and ask questions here. So get ready and raise your digital hand. Sandra is here to share. Before we take the question, just raise your hand and we'll get to you. I want to ask you, what else changed as a result of COVID, Sandra? What did you learn from it, and how did you grow through that time?
I think the biggest thing that changed for me was that I actually focused on hiring during that time, which kind of seems a little backwards, but that was kind of where I had been stuck. And that's what my MAPS coach was working on with me at that time, was hiring and adding agents to the team. And it's interesting because I guess, you're not meeting in person, you're doing it all over the phone. And it just made it that much easier to connect with people. As ironic as that is, given a pandemic, I hired agents that I never really got to meet them in person until months later, which was kind of cool. So I would say that was the biggest thing, was that my team grew quite a bit, but during that time, we kept doing the interns during that time as well. And a lot of the interns that came, that worked with us then actually got their license and joined our team after they got their license, which for me, that's like so rewarding. And I think that just tells me that we have a great program, and that we're doing a good job. Sometimes I worry, are we giving them a good experience? Are we teaching them enough? I don't want to always be taking from them. I want to be giving back to them. And now that we have had about 5 of them join our team as agents right out of college or even in college, that's super rewarding for me.
Yeah, super exciting. You're changing lives. We've got George, our great commercial agent, one of our great commercial agents down there. Mommy. Hi, George. Welcome. What's your question for Sandra?
Thank you for sharing. First question, or I guess my question is regarding the farming that you're doing. What are all the pieces that are involved in the farming itself?
Sure. The beginning of farming is different than farming 10 years later. In the beginning of farming, for me, I think you have to get your face out there. You have to be more active in the community so that people get to know you. And for me, it's direct mail pieces, emailing as well, the people that you have in the database from the neighborhood, trying to do some events if you can in the neighborhood. Pretty much anything that gets your face in front of them.
Thank you for the question, George. We appreciate it. Sandra, what do you see on the horizon for you and for your team? You want to hit the goal this year. Have you made a 3-year plan, a 5-year plan, or are you going to do that next?
I think that I've reached the biggest goal, which was to get out of production. And I'm 100% out of production. Last year I said I was out of production, but I did like 9 deals last year. At the beginning of the year, this year, I've done none. And a few times I got close to jumping back in, and I refrained. My agents are great at saying, Sandra, that's not your job. That's not your job. And I'm like, you're right. So I think that for me, my goal is to get all of the agents that are on my team all producing at least at a $10 million level and help them create bigger lives. I really want to see everybody on my team owning a home, owning the car that they want to own, and really just living their best life. Like we've been able to purchase a second home, third home. I want my agents to do that. I want them to experience the same things that we've been able to experience. So I think that's really my biggest goals, is for them to all be, at least 10 million, ideally at 20 million for themselves, not so much for the team, but for themselves.
Yeah, I love that. Well, it's actually what you're talking about is, if we think of it in terms of the career visioning process, the number one piece is find and hire talent that's a match for the job and the role, which is what you've done. Then the next piece is to get them into activity fast, which is what you talked about with the mentoring and teaching them and having standards. And then what I love about what you just shared is That's the success through others piece, which is making sure the people in your world get what they want, so they never have to leave you. And that's really what's powerful about what Gary has shared with us and helped us to learn and build. How has leveraging yourself this way changed your life for you and what you do every day?
Yeah, so it's amazing because I can be working really from anywhere now because I don't have to be sitting in somebody's living room. I can still talk to the clients. I can still be 100% involved with the agents and doing everything that I need to do, but I don't have to physically be there. So I could be, we bought an investment home in Colorado. So we could be out there getting it ready for the next set of renters. We could be at our lake house. We can be anywhere, and it's just really freed us up to do that and to be looking at other opportunities like the Colorado house that we bought during the pandemic.
Yeah, love that. Are you still active in cultivating new business or referral relationships or any of that piece?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So like I went to family reunion this last year, and my whole goal was just to meet other people in Gary's group and cultivate those relationships. So, now I'm using the database, not just for clients, but also for referral agents and creating those relationships with people. And we love getting referrals from people in other parts of the country, and we continue to try to grow that.
What would you say to people who are listening about the experience of hiring people and leveraging things out from this standpoint? I know there's a level of frustration when we start, heck, even after we've done it for a while, if somebody quits or leaves or moves, or we have a moment of doubt that we think, you know what, I don't know that I'm the kind of person who knows how to hire people and groom them and grow them. Did you go through any of that? Do you have a word of wisdom for people on that?
I went through so much of that. Like my coach, my MAPS coach, he just laughs at me. He's like, yeah, and you used to not be willing to hire anybody. And now I'm like hiring people, I feel like I'm doing it quite often now. And it's not so painful. I think that once you see, your successes of hiring a few good ones, then it's that much easier to hire the next ones. And I think you just have to really be true to yourself and true to the people that you've hired, that not everybody is going to make it. And I've had some agents that joined the team that were great people, love them to death. We're still friends. We have one who still does photography for us, but selling was not their thing. And so sometimes I think that it's our responsibility to help them see what is the right path for them. And it's actually been really fun to watch people who thought real estate was their thing, and I actually help guide them into a different career, and then they're super successful somewhere else. And so for that, like, I feel like I won when I have that opportunity to give somebody else that, that little push that they might need to go and do that thing that they were a little afraid to do, even if it's not real estate. I've created a great relationship with that person, and we can always, refer business or help each other out in different ways.
And sometimes it's not real estate. Sometimes it's just going from residential to commercial, right?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, we had a young man on the team during the pandemic who he just gotten his license, started with us. Lots of emotions during the pandemic with, family members getting sick. He had some family members pass away, and then the emotional roller coaster of residential. He ended up leaving and going to a commercial team, which is great. We still do referrals back and forth with each other. So even if people aren't a perfect fit for our team, we still keep that relationship and continue to work with them.
You just want them to succeed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, very cool. Hey, she put it in the chat box, but I'm wondering, Ariel, can we pop the lovely Sandy Ellis up? Is that possible? So she can ask her question. Hello, Sandy, my friend. How are you? You're gonna have to pop yourself off of mute. Can you do that? Down in probably in the bottom right corner, if you can. We'd love to hear from you if you can get it.
Okay, there we go.
There you go. You're on.
Okay, so you mentioned that doing marketing pieces like 1 day per month. My question was, what are the marketing pieces that you set up for that 1 day?
Sure. So most of the marketing pieces that we do, we don't spend a lot on like magazines and those kind of things. We really just do newsletters that go to different communities, and then we'll do just sold, just listed postcards. And that's it. That's how simple it is.
Yeah,
So
it's
you
funny.
do the- Okay, so
Go
all
ahead,
in
Sandy.
one- all in one particular day. What do the newsletters look like that you send out?
They're from the heart. They're written by me. Every article is written by me. It's all real estate. We're not putting recipes in there, or, you know, we don't do very many like events in terms of like advertising other people's events. We're really just trying to talk about real estate and what we're seeing in the market. Maybe try to have some fun with the articles, like an article about crazy things I've seen in the MLS, like people putting, you know, walk-in closets or things like that. I'm just trying to make it fun, but also educational at the same time.
Love to see a copy of one of those. Is that possible?
Sure.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks for your question, Sandy. We'll have Sandra share that with us, and then we'll share it with you. And it reminds me, Ariel, sometimes you're super fast at this. Well, you're usually super fast, but might be asking outside the box. There's actually a monthly newsletter that KW makes available that you could just customize with a photo and a name and stuff like that, and get that out too. So if you like writing a passionate piece like you do, Sandra, you can do that. I just want you to know, almost anything you can think of in this company, we already have it, and you can just pull it and use it. But if your gift zone is to write a piece like Sandra, it is for you, then you can do that too. I'll be happy to share that. But if we can drop the instructions in there today to you, we will, on how to find that newsletter. If not, we'll get it to you in a forthcoming email, so that you guys all know how to use that. It's a great piece that KW has at the ready. So.
Okay.
All right. Anything else you'd like to add, Sandra, that we haven't talked about today?
I think that at the end of the day, just have fun with it. I think that sometimes we get too serious and we get caught up in it, and you know, agents start to feel like it's about me. It's not all about you. It's about the people and the process, and have fun. I mean, this is a great business that we're in. It's not easy. It's stressful and challenging, but at the end of the day, it can be a lot of fun, and taking on the challenges. That's kind of one of the things that keeps me going, is I just love the challenges, and solving problems is one of my favorite things to do. So as long as you make it fun and don't take it too seriously, you know, the sky is the limit.
Yeah, well, and you're succeeding through others, which is part of your joy. All right, Katrina, what'd you say here? How many? I had it and I lost it. We can put Katrina up here if you want. How many agents are on your team, and what was your production last year? So we said 205 units, 92 million last year, right? And you have what, 15 agents now on your team?
Yeah, I have 15 agents. I think 6 of them are brand new. Like they came out of my internship program, or, you know, just brand new hires that just got their license.
So about 6 or so that are really rocking and rolling, and then 6 to 8 that you're grooming.
Correct.
Yeah, got it. Thanks, Katrina. Appreciate the question, and love that Katrina was saying she does the CV process and understands the pain of growing. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but you just have to stick to it and continue to grow. So hang with me here, Sandra. We're going to show people what we've got coming up next. We've got career visioning coming up next through FES. Yesterday, Howard Weinstein, my colleague here in the region, did part 1 of that. We're going to do part 2 next week, where we talk about, we did the KPA and we did the in-depth questioning. Next week, we're going to do, I'll lead that part, and we'll talk about the life story, Sandra, which you're familiar with, and then the motivational interview, which those, as we do those, Sandra, did you find what I found, which is, it seems like it takes longer to learn that, but it's usually because we don't do as many of those as we do KPAs and resume reviews, right?
Right. Yep. And I love the KPA. That's one of my favorite tools.
You know,
Yeah. What do you love most about it?
maybe she's feeding baby.
I love that I like to look at the job matches to kind of see where they fall. And I think that some of the jobs really define what type of skills the person has.
Yeah, well said. So, all right, so we got career visioning. Then we'll do part 3 with Nikki Baldini the following week. and she'll talk about references and expectations in that piece. So you get the whole kit and caboodle through 3 different weeks on FES as an FES course that we've made available, and you've got the information on your screen. We also, on June 29th, live here in Clearwater, right next door, we're going to do 30, 60, 90 and success through others. So we'll do that as a 1-day class. We'll start about 8:30, plan on being here at 8:30, and we'll wrap up about 4 o'clock. But if you want to get your people into action fast and make sure they stay accountable and on task, that's what the 30, 60, 90 is about. We'll share strategies on that, and then we'll talk about how to keep the people on your team and grow together for a long, long time. So that's 30, 60, 90 and success through others. We also do monthly a South Florida region team meeting, and we've got one coming up on June 8th from 11 to 12. That's when we'll do the next one. We have some top performing agents. We have an agent panel. We'll have tech tips with Ryan and more. We've got the registration and the information now in the chat box, so you can get ready for that. But just put it on your calendar for 11 a.m. on June 8th, and we'll have some great information to share with you there. We also do a luxury call each month, and we're excited to say Catherine Rain has helped us with that. I think Catherine was on earlier. I'm not sure if she's still on with us. Let me see. Oh, yeah, she is. Is Catherine on? Can you pop her up, or is her video off? Or video's off, I think. And I don't know if we know who our guest is for the 21st, but Catherine's done a great job bringing us luxury guests each month. And we'll do one June 21st with, I believe, Brandy Coffey, who's a top agent in Sarasota and does a great job with luxury. All right, one more thing we want to let you know about, and this is really awesome. If you're not on our Pivot Shift Ahead call or James's Pivot Shift Ahead call at 8 o'clock in the morning, you don't have to be on every morning. Sandra, have you ever been on this call? I don't know. I'm putting you on the spot.
I haven't been.
But it's a fun call. It's really good. It's all about the topics around shift. And there's 95,000 people on this Facebook page for the Pivot Shift Ahead piece. And I see people in the chat box saying they're on it. Well, we're going to have James going to do a live event for us here in Tampa on June 22nd from 9 to 5. So if you're in the area, if you want to come to the area, we've got the registration information for you there. It's $16, which gets you lunch and the materials. It's practically free, right? Because you're just paying for lunch and materials. And we'd love to see you up here and hang out with you, even if you come up the night before. We'd love to have a great time with you. I don't know. Do you know how many seats we have for that, Ariel? Probably 100 or 150, maybe. Something like that. Yeah, something like that. So it'll be a great time, but there is limited seating and it will sell out. So if you're interested in that, we are in a shift. We're seeing interest rates go up, and the pieces that are in there are going to benefit you and your team in a great way, and mastering those is really important. So that's coming up on June 22nd. And those are the pieces that are ahead. Sandra, thanks again so much for sharing with us. This is your contact information. And we appreciate so much of what you shared today. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. We look forward to seeing more of you. There is Sandra's information if you have any questions for her, or we'll get out a copy of your newsletter, Sandra, that you share. Ariel had told me, had dropped in the chat box, that the KW piece is a quarterly piece, not a monthly piece, so quarterly piece, but it is a pre-prepared piece. And there's lots of pieces available to you on command. If you don't know where to find them, ask your team leader or market center tech trainer. And if they can't help you, send to us in the region and we'll get Ryan on with you and we will help you find what you need in order to succeed. That's what it's all about. All right, well, we were out of time. Sandra, thanks again. Thanks to everybody for being on the call. We look forward to seeing you again sometime soon. Go have a great June. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you very much.